Again, thank you to Sync USA for inviting us to talk to you about our product known as Hypori Virtual Mobility. And as Jason stated, I want to run you through some slides, give you the facts. I don't want to bore you to death with PowerPoint. I really want to have this be a conversation and understand your needs, your requirements, and afford me the opportunity to potentially explain to you how Hypori can address those. All right, so what is Hypori? Hypori is a highly secure virtual device and empowers the users to perform their business tasks from any endpoint or on any endpoint, right? So any phone, any tablet, any laptop or desktop, sorry, no desktop picture up there, from iOS, from Android, from Windows 10. Zero data at rest. Some might say that we are the mobile equivalent to virtual desktop, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We can guarantee 100% separation between the personal data on a personal device and the enterprise data or the work data that the employee has to interact with on a daily basis.
Brian, if I can just jump in there with a quick question, just to clarify, because we have had this come up before. So just to confirm, Hypori can be used on iOS or a Windows device, correct?
Correct. iOS, Android, or Windows 10. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So what is going to a virtual mobility solution do for you? Well, it enables less risk because now all of your data is in the data center that you protect with a lot of money, resources, and energy and people. And all those combined help protect all of that information. You're not managing a bunch of mobile devices out in the wild, which significantly reduces your cost. And your security is going to go up exponentially because now you're limiting how the users can interact with their environment. So why are we here? Why is this even a problem, right? So mobile devices are becoming more and more prevalent, especially with younger generations, and they're going to continue to become more prevalent as time goes on. Laptops and desktops are going to continue to be sort of at the tail end of things, and everything is going to go mobile. But with that mobility and that agility comes a lot of security concerns. How do I pop over? Can I just click? There's some questions coming in. So can I just tap on those, Jason, or do you want me to hold off?
I would say just hold off and then we'll jump into the fireside chat once you've gone through.
Awesome. Thank you. And COVID-19 has accelerated that trend because everyone's working from home, present company included. So what exactly does Hypori solve for you when it comes to a bring your own device model for your business, your environment? So the biggest challenge with providing any sort of capability to your employees is cost. You can buy them a phone or a tablet, whether you buy one per individual or even shared, but those devices cost a lot of money and they require management. Security is always a concern, right? So yes, let's use an MDM. Let's try to lock that device down and try to restrict what it can and can't do. But if that device is somehow, removed off premises, it's no longer connected to the network, you no longer have remote management capability of that device due to that, how are you going to remote wipe it? How are you going to get rid of all of that sensitive data, all of that HIPAA data? How are you going to remove it? Privacy is a big concern when it comes to BYOD because MDMs are very invasive. They have the ability to literally look into all aspects of a physical device. And there's plenty of case law around the country now in various states that have a pretty strict look at the use of MDM, and employees have successfully sued their employers for abusing MDM technologies. If I lose a phone, break a phone, tablet, laptop, the same thing. Now I'm kind of back to that cost thing. I have to buy that person a new device, but potentially there's a lot of data that gets lost, productivity that gets lost. Now I got to try to recover their data in that process. And then, of course, the age-old problem of compatibility and interoperability. How can you get people to standardize on one platform while at the same time catering to their personal desires of using either Apple products or Samsung or HTC or Dell or Lenovo or whatever it may be? So fact is, cyber attacks are here. They're happening every day. They cost a lot of money, and COVID has only made that worse, because all of your data is now on these quote unquote untrusted, sometimes slightly trusted devices. And my house isn't defended like a data center of a healthcare corporation. So something to think about as we continue to ask people to stay at home and continue their jobs and their daily lives. Here's a little data point for you. Mobile phishing attacks can continue to be on the rise. A large portion of my time gets spent working with federal government customers, and I can tell you over there, the problem is even bigger. And more than half of you say that mobile devices are now extremely challenging to defend, right? And it totally makes sense because the device is not easily controlled. Even with MDM, I have a 13-year-old nephew. He knows how to get rid of that MDM that I have on his iPhone all the time, right? Yes, he gets caught. Yes, it gets added back in. But the user still has a lot of power over their device. Here's a quick cost comparison. We can talk about costs later on in the Q&A. This is just a data point, potentially on how much you would save using us over comparative MDM technologies. So you're probably all asking, how does Hypori work? Hypori can be installed in your data center, in a public data center. It can be installed in the cloud, Azure, AWS. We have partnerships with both, and we're starting talks with Google to add them to our partner profile list. So the ability to install Hypori just about anywhere is starting to become true. So Hypori is an appliance that sits in your data center or sits in your cloud. It has backend connectivity to all of your sensitive data, mail, file repositories, encrypted files, certificates, things of that nature. But the only thing that's going over there to the right, to the hand, are video pixels. So unlike virtual desktop, where entire screenshots are being taken and sent to the physical endpoint, we only send individual pixels. That makes transmission rates a lot easier, a lot lower, takes less bandwidth to move the data over, makes it also more efficient. And all of that information is encrypted inside the TLS 1.2 tunnel. And so you have video pixels going from left to right, and we're capturing the touches and the interaction from the physical device and sending those to the data center to be interpreted. So here's what it looks like in cloud. We have a very healthy and active engagement with Microsoft and their Azure data center, primarily for our federal customers. And believe it or not, they even use it to access sensitive classified networks now. So things are moving pretty rapidly for us. So I just wanted to share that with the group to articulate. The product is certified by the National Security Agency, which is a big deal, right? So it's certified to access classified information. So you can imagine the amount of rigor and testing that we had to go through to get to that stage. Here's just another view of that. Again, it's a seamless integration with Office 365. Which on the federal side is a big deal, but I know on the commercial side, it's equally as important because everyone is trying to, get rid of their homegrown mail servers and things of that nature. So privacy is the big deal, right? And if you have any familiarity with the EU, it's even a bigger deal, right? The European Union takes privacy to a whole nother level. And the NSA, the same people that evaluated and certified our product to be used on classified networks, has a lot of concerns with one of the MDM providers, right? and simply because it is, you know, not nearly as secure as security needs to be. So the beauty with Hypori is you only have to build one operating system for one physical device. You can access your virtual machine, your virtual mobile instance from any of these devices, as long as your certificate is loaded on those devices. And again, it's accessible from any iPhone, iPad, Android device, Windows 10, laptop, desktop. So, you know, if I happen to lose my phone, misplace my phone, my almost 4-year-old daughter takes my phone and runs away with it, that's okay. I can access it from my computer. And a little factoid, there are over 24 versions of Android operating systems. So that is the beauty of Android open source. Everyone gets to make their own flavor. So what we'll do for you is we're going to cut your costs down. We're going to make you more secure. We're going to make you more compliant with legal standards and communication standards. It's much easier to manage and control because you control all aspects of the user, right? What apps they have, what time of day they can access them, how they can, what repositories they can access on the back end. All of that is controlled through one interface. And it's pretty easily adopted and embraced because Android is used on over 2/3 of mobile devices around the world. So that is all. And again, I wanted this to be a conversation, not a death by PowerPoint. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Brian. And I'll leave this slide up just for a little bit. Oh, there you go. It's gone. But we can obviously share.
That's okay.
Just so they've got your information there. So if anyone has any specific questions after this, they can obviously reach out and have some chats with you. But yes, keen to get into the Q&A, and the questions are rolling in from the audience here. We've got quite a few to get through already. So let's get cracking. First one is, might be too early, but I'll ask now before it's too late. Does it provide MFA/2FA capability to access?
That's a great question. So we integrate with all forms of authentication. Out of the box, we are a encrypted certificate-based authentication technology. So there's two parts. There's the user certificate and the device certificate. What that enables me to do is to do a sort of a matching pair, so that when Brian Kovalski launches his Hypori instance from his iPhone, I can validate that that iPhone is an authorized device tied to Brian Kovalski. And you know, the reason may be obvious, but I'll state it anyway. If someone hijacked one of those certificates, one or the other, whether they hijack my user certificate and they're trying to use their own iPhone, or they somehow got a hold of my device certificate, but they don't have my user certificate, they're not going to be able to get in. And we can do MFA, multi-factor and two-factor. Those are API calls for us. And we have active solutions in customer spaces today using RSA, using Microsoft Authenticate, and also using an external product known as YubiKey, which is sort of an external authentication device. So all those solutions are available.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Question here: can you explain how Hypori compares to AirWatch, but also Microsoft Intune, as we are in this stage right now?
Sure. So both of those are essentially either MDM or EMM technologies, and they aim to either control a physical device or control a sandbox on a physical device. I would say the one limitation with Intune is that Intune can only control Microsoft applications. It can't control anything else. And so, you know, I would say that's a limitation there. But in general, you know, it's the principle of either managing a portion of or the entirety of a physical device. And statistically, we have found that most employees tend to shy away from subscribing to any MDM or EMM technology simply because they don't want their personal information being made available to their employers.
Got you. Fantastic. Does the product provide device tracking as well?
So every time you log on to Hypori, I'm going to capture your GPS coordinates at the time of log on. So no matter what physical device you're connecting from, at the moment you log on, I'm going to capture that data and store it. And the reason why we do that is because, A, we want to make sure it fits your pattern of life, and B, we do have customers that have geofencing in place because those customers are accessing classified networks, and so our government customers have deemed that, well, no, if our people are outside of a certain grid square, then they can't access the appropriate classified network.
Got you. Okay, fantastic. Well, the questions keep coming. Who are your biggest competitors in this space?
Some people will say that we compete with the NDM providers. I would make the argument that, we don't, because we're not an NDM technology. We don't aim to take control of the physical endpoint. The physical endpoint is by our very design hostile to us, right? So our technology and our security stack is built to protect from the physical device and only give access when required for the physical device to interact with the user's virtual device. There are some other VMI providers out there, but what I would say is Hypori is the company that holds the patents on actually virtualizing Android. And so anyone that aims to virtualize Android is probably violating our patents in the process.
Got you. And just to clarify for us here as well, because there was a reference, are you a competitor to BlackBerry? If so, how do you compare? And another question, it's quite similar, is what is the key differentiator between Hypori and your competitors?
So, so are we competitor to BlackBerry? Was that
first
the question?
And foremost, yeah, that was the first question. Yes.
Again, BlackBerry is a hardware provider. They, I think their solution is sort of, personal. I believe it's personal and business side. That's data on device. We are not a data on device technology. So that I don't, I could see BlackBerry benefiting from partnering with us and using our technology. But I don't know too many people that still use a BlackBerry phone.
Okie doke. And so what is the key differentiator between Hypori and your main competitors?
Yeah, so the way we have virtualized Android and render the Android operating system is what's protected by our patents, and we are the only ones allowed to present Android in that manner, right? Most of our competitors use some sort of dashboard, or they use individual TLS 1.2 enabled applications. So basically, I have a dashboard, I have a bunch of applications, I tap on it, and it sets up individual TLS connections back to a server that renders that information back to them. But rendering an entire operating system back to the user virtually, we don't have any competitors in that space.
Cool. How do you handle resolutions across multiple devices?
So we have the ability to auto scale to just about any device out there. We're able to detect what type of device you're coming from based on your, when you actually provision Hypori, your Hypori profile onto any physical device, we're going to know what physical device you're coming from. And so, we have little graphic templates that enable us to auto size to that device. So it doesn't matter if I hop from my iPhone to my Chromebook to my Dell laptop. Those are all approved physical devices for me to access my Hypori virtual machine from, and it's gonna auto scale to those as I switch between them. And I should add, the sessions are not concurrent. In other words, if I'm logged in on my iPhone and now I'm at my desk and I want to log into my Windows 10 desktop, it's going to sever that connection from the iPhone and resume the connection on my Windows 10 desktop.
Great, fantastic. Does Hypori integrate with any SEIM tools?
SEIM tools. Can someone help me with that?
SEIM tools.
Oh, SEIM tools. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Actually, I think by now you can find our plugin, our Splunk plugin on the Splunk plugin page. That's our biggest sort of partner, and that was sort of customer driven because the customer was on Splunk, and Splunk got the idea, hey, we want to create a plugin for you guys. They're like, sure, that'd be great. But yeah, you can probably imagine there are a ton of logs that are generated. Our administrator console is not designed to display all of those logs, so we keep those hidden. It would literally take, one of the Hypori founders to interpret all of those logs anyway. But you can dump all of those into a SEIM tool and get some pretty amazing content and security value out of that data.
And to follow up to that, how about logarithm? Further to SEIM, how about logarithm?
Works just fine.
Fantastic. A few more questions coming in are about differentiation between you guys and Citrix. Citrix has come up on 3 separate questions here, so keen to see how you guys differentiate from that.
Yep, so Citrix is predominantly focused on laptops and desktops. Citrix is not focused on mobile devices. They actually, I think have tried to downscale to mobile devices pseudo successfely. But we built from the mobile device up, they built from the desktop device down. So we're able to manage resolution a lot easier, and provide probably better security than they do.
Great. Is this a per license base or device/instance based model?
Yes, per license per user. So a user can have as many physical devices as they would like or have provisioned. The license is per user.
Cool. And how would you answer an employee's concern regarding having the company have a footprint on their personal device?
So the beauty is Hypori in no way, shape, or form attaches itself or takes over a physical device. Again, that is based on how our security stack was designed and built. We treat the physical device as hostile to our security. And so everything around our technology is built around keeping the physical device away from from the data itself. And that's why there isn't any data in transit or data on the physical endpoint. So no data at rest, no data in transit. All you're doing is seeing video pixels being sent to you, and you're essentially touching a blank screen with nothing on it, but we're capturing where you touched, and that correlates to, oh, he just touched Outlook or she just touched Chrome or whatever the case may be.
Cool. And one here that's a little more specific to healthcare as well. If we leverage this onto our iPads and iPhones on the patient floors, will Hypori sign a BAA in case of incidental PHI access? Personal health information.
Yeah, so gotcha. Okay, sorry, I'm not a healthcare guru, so you'll have to help me with these.
Neither was I until the start of this week, but I've got all the acronyms now from Q&A, so thank you attendees for educating me as well.
Yeah, we actually did a pilot with one of the I'll call them hospital chains, where we worked through that very problem. Right, is how do you enable, say, a handful of iPads or iPhones that nurses can sort of check in, check out, log in, and we managed to, we couldn't get the, I forget the name of the vendor that's very popular in the healthcare space, something or other. But we did manage to install, their Android client into our environment, and all of those documents and things of that nature, they do appear, and you can do digital signatures and things like that inside Hypori.
Cool. And another question there, it's kind of similar-ish, but are there any plans to work with any medical device manufacturers?
We haven't thought about it, but we're happy to enter into those discussions.
Good answer.
We do, just of note real quick, we do have customers in the healthcare space, predominantly in elderly care. And so that seems to be an area where we were able to have some success, and they actually have their own physical device that they built, and they enabled that device with Hypori.
Cool. And just to continue on that line of questioning as well, so with the clients you've got in healthcare, are you able to provide just some examples as to how they've gone through implementing, and obviously the results they've just seen following that?
I'm sorry, I lost the question there. Say that again.
Sorry, yeah, no, just to get a little bit of an example as to how other healthcare organizations essentially identify the challenge and how you guys solve that challenge by
okay. Yeah, and this is, again, this is sort of lesson learned for me, because I'm not from that space. Apparently, doctors, nurses, and various healthcare technicians, they rotate around to different elderly care facilities. And there was no good way to, one, validate that the person was actually where they said they were, and two, had a sort of check-in, check-out mechanism to validate that, yes, they're sitting across from, senior citizen Kovalski, and, providing services at, rendering support, that sort of thing. And so they had built a device, a tablet based on Android, and they needed things like GPS tracking and limiting the healthcare worker from adding any other apps and such to that device, as well as making sure that once they connect and once they log in, the GPS grid is captured so that from a billing perspective, the provider could validate, yep, we were there, we saw patient Kovalski, and services were rendered, and so we can do that, perform that process. So, and it started as a small pilot with I think 100 devices, and I think we're well above 2,000 devices inside of 6 months, and we continue to grow. So it's pretty exciting for us.
Great, that's really great to hear. Can you disable or freeze the device like absolute?
I'm assuming we're asking the physical device or the virtual device?
The physical device, I would assume, yes.
So the physical device, we have absolutely no power or influence over. The virtual device, we have all power and influence over, right? So if I perceive there to be a security problem, for example, if a user takes a snapshot with their iPhone of the Hypori environment, an alert is going to get kicked off. That alert is going to go to the administrator. And if, for example, our healthcare customer, for them, the policy is, okay, if someone takes a snapshot, immediately cut off their connection, right? And so we have the ability to stop, pause your connection in an instant. Same thing if you call and you say, hey, I lost my iPhone, or I lost my tablet, or whatever the case may be, we're gonna pause or stop your virtual session, just so that heaven forbid someone got a hold of your PIN for your physical device, and now they're exploring and figuring out, oh, okay, what else is on here? They're not going to be able to get into Hypori.
Thank you. Can you discuss how you manage data privacy and segregate the sensitive data?
So we are an operating system meant to interface with your data. So we're not going to get involved in how you store your data, how you manage your data. How you do that today is how you're going to do that tomorrow. We're simply the interface for you to enable your workforce to interact with that data securely and safely. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, let us please know. Another question here that we have was, if you're using the physical device camera, how are pictures not stored on the physical device?
So normally I would do a live demo of our technology, and I don't know if time permits it. Any interaction, when I'm inside Hypori, any interaction with the physical device essentially assumes that you're just either banging away at the screen, tapping away at the screen, or banging away at the keyboard. It doesn't even know that you turned the camera on or off when you're using Hypori, right? Because we connect to the physical device at the kernel layer. And so the operating system has no awareness of the fact that you're actually engaging the camera. And so that's how we're able to, we have a separate camera app inside Hypori. I can, take a picture. That picture, gets immediately, saved inside the cloud. There's no sort of, save on phone and then transit in. That actually would break our security model. Everything stays, in the data center where Hypori is located.
Cool. Do you actively engage in red team testing prior to each release?
For our major releases, yes, not for the minors.
Another question here.
And one more note on that. So our customer base is obviously predominantly the federal government, and we get red teamed by them pretty regularly.
Good stuff. Any issues with progressive web apps?
Could you give me an example of a progressive web app?
Jason Frank, you can please provide an example, and we'll move on to another question whilst you do so. Can Hypori be configured to work on both BYOD and corporate managed mobile assets using Intune and JAMF?
It can, yeah. So again, Intune, you can only provision Microsoft apps. You can't provision anything else. But you can use an MDM to provision a physical device with Hypori. We've tested that, and actually that's how the federal government uses it for their classified use cases, or use cases accessing classified information. They have a physical device that's managed by an MDM, and they push the Hypori app down to that physical device and manage that resource. They're obviously, when it comes to that sort of thing, they're obviously worried about the whereabouts of that physical device, even though it's only interacting with a virtual machine.
Got you. And a bit of a left field question, but obviously kind of along the similar line of questioning, but is, does your firm have any affiliation with Dominion voting systems?
No, we do not.
Okay, cool. From your pricing standpoint, are there price tiers based on the number of licenses, and is there an educational discount?
So we'll go in reverse order. We don't have an educational discount yet, but as the SVP of sales, I do my best to make any deal possible. In our cloud model, we have basically two basic categories. You can either purchase Hypori with the cloud services already included, i.e. Your Azure or AWS costs will already be included in the price. Again, that's per license per year. Or if you have an environment where you already have your Azure deployment or your AWS deployment, and you say, hey, I just want to tack Hypori on inside of that, we have a software only license price. And then if you're really concerned about things, we actually have a purpose-built appliance that's self-contained that we will install into your environment and integrate with any backend services you ask us to.
Great. And how about nonprofits as well? Are they just part of like a case-by-case basis, or is there a different pricing structure for nonprofit organizations?
Case by case, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Have you worked with PCI transactions? And can Hypori take device input, e.g. card readers?
Yep. So any physical connect. So Hypori connects to all physical aspects or physical connections of a physical device. I know that's saying the word physical way too many times. But on Android devices, obviously the USB port. We even integrate with Bluetooth. And so, any physical device that you introduce to the environment, as long as your template, which is what we call it, or your virtual machine is allowed to engage with that physical device, you're able to do that. So and by the way, the camera, the microphone, the gyroscope on your phone, right? The gyro, which controls whether or not you're horizontal or vertical. Those are all aspects that are controlled by Hypori, whether or not a user has access to them.
And back to the progressive web apps question, we have a little bit more of a clear explanation from Jason. So thank you very much. Progressive web apps, basically JavaScript-based sites that can be used on a phone through the browser, acts like an app, but is not compiled, etc.
Yes, they will work inside Hypori as long as you're using Chrome or something like that that allows the use of Java.
Great. So Hyporia is essentially containerization technology on the phone, correct?
So not really.
Okay.
We don't containerize anything on the physical phone itself. We are virtualization technology, and we give you secure access to your virtual mobile device in the cloud or on premise. But we do not containerize anything on the physical device because we don't want to interact with the physical device any more than we have to.
Cool. And how does Hypori compare with virtual applications-based solutions?
So, as stated in their name, virtual applications, it's a single app on your physical device that's interacting with a singular service. Hypori is an entire operating system and ecosystem that you can interact with.
Great. And final question here then, before we run out of time, we've got time for one more. Is Hypori focused on BYOD or also recommended to use for enterprise provided devices as well, i.e. for consistency / standardization?
It is. We've actually adopted the term in the federal space. We've adopted the terminology virtual GFE, government furnished equipment or government furnished device. They have legacy government owned phones that they asked us to enable with Hypori, and we've done that. But they also asked us to enable personal devices with Hypori, and we're able to do that. So it's the physical endpoint to us is almost irrelevant. What matters to us is that we are able to secure the session between that physical device and our appliance and keep the data safe.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Brian. Whew, we got through quite a lot there.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Audience at home in the offices, please join me in a virtual round of applause for Brian. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Really love those kind of candid.